Sorry for the IT issues. So definitely always a typo on this page, but definitely today what our agenda is basically to give you kind of a top guide in terms of your peak season ASIN selection. So I'm sure most of you here are experienced sellers, but you might have trouble actually kind of prioritizing your different advertising strategy for your multiple different products within your portfolio. So we'll kind of give you an overarching guide in terms of how to segment your ASINs into kind of 4 different buckets, and then the corresponding advertising strategy for each one of them. And then definitely we will have much more detailed advice from Scale Insights in terms of bidding, targeting, budgeting, but I'll kind of give an overarching kind of tips to remember before Prime Day. So going straight into it, I'll be kind of like recapping the ASIN matrix. I'm not sure how familiar our sellers here are with this, but essentially what is the ASIN matrix? It's basically just a guide for you to kind of segment your different products and then pick and choose and plug and play the different kind of advertising strategy across the funnel. So Jasmine actually introduced sponsored brands, sponsored display. So we'll teach you how to mix and match the advertising strategy according to the ASIN matrix. So maybe for the sellers who've forgotten or they don't really know about the ASIN matrix, you need 2 pieces of information. So firstly, definitely is you want to know what is the life cycle of your ASIN. So across all the different ASINs that you have, essentially what you want to do is to download an inventory report and basically find out the launch date or the open date of your ASINs and calculate basically from this very moment or the moment where you're setting up your advertising campaign, how long has that ASIN gone live for? So that's the product life cycle of your ASIN. Second piece of information, sorry, did anyone miss? So you want to rank your ASINs from the most recent ASIN to probably your oldest launched ASIN. And then subsequently, you also kind of want to take a look at the sales of your product. So how many orders did you get on each of your products? Yeah, you can download your inventory report on Seller Central and then download your sales report. Okay. Oh, sorry. Did everyone take? If anyone missed out, you can find me after this as well. So definitely, the next step definitely is to just find out the average. So what is the average kind of launch days for your ASIN? Like how many days has it been since it launched? So you want to find the average across all your products. And of course, the average sales across all your products. So this is an overarching kind of a guide to that. And what you want to do is map it, of course, to the ASIN. So for example, if you launch red socks, blue socks, green socks, etc., you kind of want to take a look at their average life cycle as well as their average sales. And then you want to classify your products into kind of like the 4 quadrants as a guide. So basically your average sales as well as your average product life cycle. So that will be kind of like the middle point to kind of separate the different 4 ASINs, right? So what are these 4 ASINs? I'll kind of go into it. So definitely what essentially kind your star ASINs are, they're basically your rising star ASINs. So essentially you just launched this ASIN, but you're actually seeing above average sales growth in terms of sales and orders for your ASIN. So that is going to be kind of like your new rising star. Your cash cow ASIN is essentially your ASINs that has been in your portfolio. It's your main sales driver, your core. This is actually a principle that I also implement in my previous job in FMCG. So there's always a core product within your portfolio that is driving most of your sales. So these 2 ASINs are, or these 2 buckets of ASINs are actually going to be kind of your main sales drivers and your priority for Prime Day. And I'll dive into the specific advertising strategy for these 2 ASINs. And then of course you have a question mark ASIN. So you probably just launched this product, but sales are kind of below average. So question mark, right? You're not sure, but there is potential to actually continue improving the performance of this ASIN. So we also have advertising strategy for that. So you might not want to completely give up on your new product that hasn't maximized its potential. And of course, there's the sitting dog ASIN. So sitting dog, a bit weird, but it also can mean a long tail ASIN. So these are very niche ASINs. So you might be selling, for example, waterproof insulated water bottle for kids. So something very niche within your portfolio that you kind of see stable sales growth over a long period of time. It's neither growing, neither like decreasing as well. So you might not totally want to give up on the ASIN, but you also don't know what to really do with that kind of product. So we also have advertising strategy for that, and also kind of a way to think about it leading up towards Prime Day. So going straight into it, for your star ASIN, essentially kind of what you want to do as a strategy is to focus definitely on offense as well as defense. So because it's your new rising star, you just launched it, but it's growing really well. So what you want to do, as Jasmine mentioned earlier, you don't want to kind of drive sponsored products to that ASIN and then lose all the traffic to competitors during the product detail pages. So what you want to do is definitely also to kind of dress up your product detail pages, ensure that, for example, the banners on the right, the product carousel at the bottom, they're not kind of being occupied by cheaper competitors or different type of other products. What you can think about is definitely to target your own rising ASINs with maybe your cash cow ASIN. So do product targeting on yourself to ensure this closed loop of traffic around your entire product detail page. And because it's a rising star, it actually means that this product is actually growing well. There is momentum behind this product. So what you want to do in terms of a bidding strategy for your sponsored products as well as your sponsored brands then is to actually ramp up the bids in terms of top of search. So within sponsored products, you can actually adjust your bids by placement. So you want to track if your rising star products, for example, are actually getting a lot of traffic from top of search. It's highly likely because it's growing well. So then you want to make bid adjustments in terms of placement, for example, especially on top of search, if it's working well for you. And then basically you occupy all the positions at top of search to ensure consistent traffic, clicks for your star ASIN. And of course, for sponsored display, what you want to do is to continue this momentum, right? You just launched it, you still want to start increasing awareness, impressions. So what you can try is actually sponsored display, because as I mentioned, sponsored display is casting that wide net, driving awareness to the different audiences that you might want to reach that have never heard of your brand. So you could try sponsored display as a bidding strategy as well in terms of implementing it, capturing more audiences. You can try audience targeting, because remember you have a cash cow ASIN. So perhaps you might also want to target your own cash cow ASINs, or actually kind of your consumers who have essentially interacted with your pages before, and remarket them, but with your rising star ASIN, like, hey, we're launching a new product and it's one of our best sellers now. So you might also want to drive purchase in that way. And definitely for your cash cow ASIN, this is your best seller. It's the key to drive your whole store sales. So definitely this is something that we need to be aggressive in terms of both offense and defense. So the strategy, as I mentioned, is kind of similar to your rising star ASINs, but even more so, you might have to kind of defend your cash cow ASINs, because most likely you'll also have competitors trying to kind of attack your cash cow ASINs. So what you want to do is to be much more competitive, do brand defense. How we can do that? Definitely, of course, sponsored products, you need to be slightly more aggressive with your bid, right? Because this is your core product driving your sales. We know that organic traffic, increased interest in, Amazon in general, means that you're going to get a lot more clicks, a lot more impressions. So you need to be a bit more aggressive, because you might lose out to all the other competitors that are bidding aggressively on that day itself. And then, of course, definitely here what you want to do, is to choose again sponsored display. What you want to do, optimize for page visits, target your audiences again, like remarket to your audience. Since it's a stable, a longer product, it means that you have audiences that have bought this product before. You can remind them essentially to repurchase for this product. Yeah, definitely what you want to do again, top of search, since this is your bestseller ASIN, what you can do is increase your bids in terms of top of search placement as well, especially if you know that this placement is what's working for you. And I think one tip also in terms of trying to be maybe a little bit more aggressive is then since this is your cash cow ASINs, it's actually good to prepare before Prime Day. Take a look at your competitors in terms of what your competitors are selling, right? You go to your cash cow ASIN listing page and you take note of what are the other ASINs that are appearing on the right, on the left, on the bottom of your cash cow ASIN. And you'll start to notice like probably a few competitors that constantly show up around your ASIN. So that will be your competitor ASIN. Of course, there are also different other ways to identify competitor ASINs. But then you want to kind of take note of which ASINs these are and target them during Prime Day, especially if you know if you have a competitive edge over some of your competitors. And then basically what I'm encouraging you to do is to steal traffic from your competitor ASINs during Prime Day. So that's taking a much more aggressive take, but we leave it to the seller's discretion. But for your cash cow ASIN, remember, just be mindful of your bids, be a little bit more aggressive in terms of offense and defense. And subsequently, for your question mark ASINs, definitely, it's kind of a new launch product, but sales are kind of below average. So what you really want to do then is essentially you can use it as a cross-selling kind of opportunity for your cash cow as well as your rising ASIN. So here you can try product targeting, and then you target your own products basically. So you do sponsored product or sponsored brands, product targeting on your own product to create opportunities for cross-selling, because you'll be getting a lot of traffic from your cash cow ASINs or your rising star ASINs. Then if your own products appear below or to the right, for example, of your ASINs, what you're doing is generating a closed loop of traffic. So I'll kind of show you a visual of it later, but this is kind of what it means. For your long tail ASIN, I would advise if you are trying to be kind of mindful about your budget, then I would say be a bit more conservative for your long tail ASIN. Of course, up to the sellers whether to turn it off completely, but in terms of prioritization, your cash cow, your rising star ASINs driving most of your sales, then just monitor the performance of your long tail ASIN before Prime Day. And if you don't see it working well, or you don't see an uptick in sales, uptick in impressions or click-through rate, then you might want to consider allocating more of your budget towards your cash cow or your rising star ASINs, especially for Prime Day. Again, I think it's best because it's a long tail ASIN, as I mentioned, it's a kind of a niche category within your portfolio then. What you can do is just do very specific kind of a keyword or product targeting for exactly the long tail keyword, like insulator water bottle for kids, and then sustain kind of a moderate budget and bid for those keywords. But apart from that, your sitting dog or your long tail ASIN will simply just kind of be a niche portfolio. For Prime Day, if you want to allocate budget, keep it for your cash cow and your rising star ASINs. Yeah, so this is the summary. You'll notice that we'll always recommend you essentially to adopt kind of a full funnel strategy for your rising star as well as your cash cow ASINs, simply because they are driving your sales, right? So you want to protect those ASINs. So again, you'll kind of want to see in terms of maximizing impressions for star ASIN, impression because you just launched it. So don't be too, intensely focused on sales. I know it's important, but you need to grow traffic and awareness of your new product first. So reminding our sellers of this. And then of course, during Prime Day itself, then we drive for sales via aggressive bidding, keeping your budget in check. And of course, in terms of your question mark ASIN, of course, increase impressions because you just launched it. The sales are below average. So before Prime Day, start driving traffic. So you can do this via sponsored brands or via stores, and also essentially sponsored display if you would like to try. And long tail ASIN or sitting duck ASIN, as I mentioned, It's just a niche opportunity you might want to capture, but please decide in terms of your budgeting, then to prioritize the top two at the top of the quadrant. So what this means, I'll quickly cover kind of the overarching kind of best practices for budget bidding as well as targeting. So across the 3 stages of the peak season, again, this is just kind of a summary for you guys to remind yourselves after today. But essentially, before your goal is really to drive traffic, increase in brand traffic, increase in product traffic. And as I mentioned, the top tip here in terms of your budget is to start mentally as well as really preparing for your budget increase leading up towards Prime Day. Bidding, of course, as well, you want to start slowly bidding increase in advance, because simply there's so much more traffic flooding the sites before Prime Day itself. And targeting, again, really just keeping track of consumer behavior, like take a look at your automatic campaigns, any changes in kind of the consumer behavior you want to be aware of. And of course, peak season, then definitely you'll notice for bidding, we really want to kind of, get your core keywords into a campaign where you start bidding aggressively for your core keywords, for your cash cow ASIN, for example. And then, of course, in terms of targeting, you need to optimize for sales. Promos and coupons, don't forget about it. Leading up towards Prime Day, run ads on your promotions and as well as your coupons. And of course, definitely don't forget about your stores as well as your posts. These are just kind of your brand building tools in terms of that. And subsequently, at the end stage, in terms of targeting, the opportunity is to remarket to your loyal audiences or people who have viewed your product and remarket to them. So as I mentioned, and also many of my colleagues mentioned, budget actually is quite important for Prime Day. A lot of sellers will ask, what's my bidding strategy, what's my targeting strategy, but don't forget about your budget. So, adequate budget to keep your ads active and running through the 48 hours for Prime Day is important. Secondly, definitely, enough budget to sustain longer-term advertising. So don't forget about after Prime Day. You don't want to lose completely all of your customers after Prime Day as well. And definitely, I think just a quick guide in terms of setting up budget rules. So just for Prime Day, I think we actually kind of recommend sellers to consider or explore this before Prime Day of adding a budget rule. So how you can do that on your advertising console, you will actually, there's actually a budget rule page. So you can click add budget rule. And basically what you want to do is to set a budget rule according to the performance you want to track. So essentially, you can set the rule name and their schedule as well as performance, but we'll kind of focus on performance today for Prime Day especially. So you can set the date range. So it can be just the 48 hours within Prime Day. And of course, the recurrence you can set as daily because Prime Day is a shorter event. And then the performance metric, there's different options. You can actually set budget rules according to ACoS, click-through rate, conversion rate, as well as return on investment. But for example, I would focus on click-through rate, for example, in the period around Prime Day, definitely. If you see, for example, you went live with a campaign and it's getting very, very high click-through rate, especially like 1 week or 2 weeks before the campaign, then you might want to set a budget rule according to a click-through rate benchmark that you have, taking a look at your own campaigns, so that during the event itself, when you run the campaign and your click-through rate hits that benchmark, so for example, maybe like 1% click-through rate is considered very good within all your campaigns, then what this budget rule does is that you can set an increase in your budget so you don't go out of budget. So once you notice your campaign having a higher click-through rate, that is kind of your target, you can actually choose to increase your budget by X%. It can be 100%, 200%. Essentially what this does is to prevent yourself going out of budget. So step 3 is just to go live and then monitor with the campaign and the budget rule that you went live with. So here is basically where you can add performance-based budget. Of course, there's also ACOS, right? Like there might be some products that you're unsure of, like your question mark ASIN. So you'll see that maybe you get a lot of clicks, a lot of impressions, but you're not getting much orders. So you can also set ACOS kind of budgets, so to prevent your ACOS going out of control also. So that's for budget rule. Yeah. And also to not sure if our sellers are aware of the budget page, but also this is where you kind of keep track of of how much time are you within budget, basically throughout the entire campaign time. It gives you actually quite a bit of information in terms of estimated missed sales, missed impressions, missed clicks, and of course a recommended budget from Amazon. But a lot of sellers always ask me, should I just implement the recommended budget from Amazon? So not necessarily, because sometimes the Amazon automatically recommends a really high budget. So I would say definitely start slowly increasing bit by bit leading up towards Prime Day. So start from 10% increase and then monitor to see if you're constantly going out of budget. So if you keep going out of budget like 50%, 100% of the time, then of course you need to start slowly increasing your budget. I would say definitely keep track of this page, especially leading up towards Prime Day. Of course, for promotions and coupons, this is something your AMs will be a bit more, equipped to kind of teach you with. But definitely keep track of your promotions and coupons. So, what this means is that just don't forget about promoting your coupons or your ASINs that are running deals. So essentially, they get kind of visibility as well as traffic in terms of your kind of deals that are going live for Prime Day. And definitely what you want to do, the best 3 key practices, target your high-performing keywords. I'm assuming that most of the time when you run a deal or a coupon, it's for your cash cow ASIN or your best-performing ASINs. So what you want to do is possibly target your highly performing keywords as well as your products. And you might want to experiment ahead of time or check to see if people have been searching for your branded keywords with deals or with discount or keywords such as season or prime, basically just changing the consumer behavior coming near Prime Day. Take note of your keyword and kind of consider and keep track of it. So it will be basically kind of your well-performing category keywords like water bottle plus Prime Day or discount or sale. So that's the keyword that you might want to keep track of. Secondly, of course, definitely you have to choose a more aggressive bid for your campaign, especially if it's going to be your cash cow ASINs. So leading up towards Prime Day, we don't recommend sellers to, for example, just increase your bid by 100%. Take a staggered, slow increase approach and monitor together with your cost per click to see if it's effective. And then subsequently, if you're running promotions or coupons, which only last for Prime Day, then you might want to set an end date for your limited edition promotion campaigns. So we actually recommend a different bidding strategy for new products that you're launching. So if you're launching a new product within your store leading up towards Prime Day, we actually see that down-only bidding works better for new products. But definitely, as you'll see, if you recap into the kind of like the ASIN matrix slides that I shared earlier, for stable products or long-term products that you've launched and are your kind of best sellers, we still recommend dynamic bids up and down. But if you have launched a totally new product, we actually see a better performance for down-only bidding. And of course, in terms of targeting, you want to start, optimizing your manual targeting from your automatic campaigns. So you'll see the automatic campaigns start changing over time in terms of what consumers search for when they enter Amazon. Then you want to take out your best performing keywords or products, for example, and put them in a manual campaign and optimize for it. And then subsequently, you can select suggested keywords from Amazon in terms of targeting. And of course, at the same time, if you are taking the offensive as well as defensive strategy, it's natural then that you might be using product targeting as well as keyword targeting at the same time. And of course, then create different campaigns for different targeting types. So what this means is basically in terms of driving your traffic, what we are actually targeting in terms of search traffic would be sponsored products, sponsored brands, right? So in terms of sponsored products and sponsored brands, you're basically targeting consumers that are searching for specific keywords. But sponsored display as well as posts, basically you're trying to just get exposure to consumers, just be exposed to them. So it's a bit different kind of a mentality. You want to kind of prioritize in terms of your different kind of objectives, right? So if you've launched a new product, or you're a pretty new seller, or just essentially a new product, you might want to focus more on driving kind of exposure first before Prime Day. And then of course, then once you've driven exposure, then you can optimize again within your search traffic as well. So again, like there are different kind of objectives for Prime Day in terms of the peak season. So I'll kind of briefly touch on an interesting bit of product targeting. So this is what I mean essentially when I keep saying, oh, you want to kind of pad your product detail pages, right? So for example, if you sell a massage gun, then you'll notice that essentially there's like sponsored display appearing at the top. So that's sponsored display, this is also sponsored display, this is also sponsored display, all around your massage gun. And you actually want to take note leading up towards Prime Day of what products are appearing around your product detail pages. Is it your own products or is it a competitor products? So it could be that someone might be targeting specifically your ASIN, especially if you're like a market leader or you're actually seeing really high growth. And then essentially, if you're running sponsored products on your massage gun, you could be losing quite a bit of sales to competitors that have targeted your products. So this is something that you kind of want to take note of. These are some examples of the sponsored display placements around the product detail page. So essentially what this means is that product targeting could be quite effective for certain sellers. You can see, especially when you download some of your reports, you might see that you might be getting a lot of traffic from certain other products. So that's something that you can try. Currently, there's definitely a new kind of extended product targeting. I shared this last time in the seller meetup, but in case you didn't know, when you do product targeting, last time you can I think last time you can only choose exact, if I'm not wrong, and then recently we added the function of expanded. So you can actually include, for example, a competitor ASIN to target, but then they would target kind of your competitor ASINs in kind of a broader category. So this is a new function, so maybe before Prime Day you can try this to see if it works for you. As I mentioned, within the search page, there are all these different kind of placements that are appearing. There can be sponsored displays, sponsored brand video, sponsored products, sponsored brands right at the top of the search page. So this is what we mean by, if you just choose sponsored products, you're basically only occupying a small space at top of search, right? And it's individual products that you are occupying one at a time. But for example, if you try sponsored brands video, it actually occupies, one video occupies the entire space. So it's very interruptive when a consumer search for example, massage gun, and they see a whole video appearing showing the effects of the massage gun. So it's actually very eye-catching. So it's proven to be one of the more effective, upper funnel kind of products that we have. And then of course, there are other different placements for sponsored brands. So over here, what I'm trying to say is, you want to kind of ensure that you are appearing and your brand is appearing on the search page effectively. You want to maximize the placements that you are appearing on. In terms of the product detail page, so this is top of search. In terms of product detail page, as I mentioned, sponsored display will appear right at the top. Again, take note basically of some of the competition around you. Of course, here there's also sponsored products as well as sponsored brands. You'll also see that there's multiple different ASINs here. I think be conservative when it comes to product detail page bidding. I think it's better to base it on historical data. If you download your reports, you see that you get a lot of traffic from certain other competitor products or category products. Then you can try product targeting for sponsored products and sponsored brands. So for example, in the kind of the offense strategy, what you want to do is to kind of convince buyers, right? So you can target products from competitors, basically, and steal traffic, sorry, and basically drive more traffic towards your products. So for example, you could be a challenger brand. I mean, I hope everyone here is a market leader, but you could be also a challenger brand. And you know, for example, that your product is on par with one of the best sellers within the category. So what you can do is actually try to capture some traffic from the bestseller category if you have competitive advantage in terms of price, or probably you have even more benefits than them. So over here, this is one way where you can adopt this. You want to select kind of the better performing listings. You can also basically target your own, and of course basically target kind of the product sources from the product detail page. So this is quite similar to the previous slides, right? There are different kind of categories within the product detail page. When you scroll down from the product detail page, there are sponsored products related to the item, similar items, previously viewed customer kind of insights, and featured items like Amazon automatically suggests. So pay attention basically to these details, very high relevant, high traffic product detail page. And this means that any kind of non-ad placement, so every time there's ads, there's always the word sponsored there. If there's no sponsored word there, it means that those products are actually ranking high in terms of organic ranking. That means they have good sales, they probably have really a high reviews, a lot of reviews. So you want to pay attention to those listings as well for multiple different reasons, right? If they have high organic rankings, it means that they're doing something very right with their listings. So you can copy with pride some of the best practices from those listings in terms of, optimizing your listings. And definitely you kind of want to note kind of the keywords that they're using in terms of their listings, and target and maybe implement some of those keywords for yourselves. So again, this is a China example actually, but essentially the guy is selling bubble blowers. And basically what you want to do is you do product targeting and as well as contextual targeting of sponsored display to ensure this like closed loop of traffic within your product detail pages, right? So you can actually target compliments as well. So if you're selling bubble gum, maybe you also sell the bubble foam. So you can actually target basically your own products to ensure cross-selling or complementary selling with sponsored display as well as sponsored products. So definitely, in terms of defense, again, the objective is to avoid traffic loss. You don't want to kind of run sponsored products and then lose your traffic to competitors. So again, this is what I mean by targeting your own listings to create that closed loop of traffic. Yeah, you can target ASINs with different product features. So this is where you can use your question mark ASIN to target your rising or your cash cow ASINs. To ensure different colors or different type of your products appear along the featured items at the bottom of the product detail page. So this is how you kind of defend your brands. And of course, this is, as I mentioned earlier, the cross-selling kind of a tip, right? Selling cameras, then you might want to also target your own tripods or have your tripods target your camera, essentially to kind of achieve cross-selling. So how you can kind of like detail out your associate kind of product sources, you can use Amazon Brand Analytics. So after lunch, we actually have a more kind of a detailed kind of a short session on Amazon Brand Analytics, but this is broadly kind of a guide in terms of where you can basically kind of take a look within your advertising console in terms of what are some of the top 3 kind of items that are associated with an ASIN of your choice. So you can actually put down essentially which exact product you want to look at. Maybe you want to look at your cash cow products. Then of course the brand as well as the category. And then it will actually show essentially what are some of the products that people view most often after your product. So that's going to give you kind of an insight in terms of what products to target when you want to try product targeting. So that's essentially what ABA kind of can help you with. And this is just a guide in terms of how to find Amazon brand analytics within Seller Central. It's free, so you don't have to implement it, but you can just take a look. It's quite interesting to see basically what customers look at like in relation to your products. And as I mentioned, so this is just kind of a sample view in terms of what your product sources mean, right? If you're too lazy to use ABA, then of course, as I mentioned, pay attention to all these sites within the product detail page to kind of get an idea of what people look at apart from your listings and kind of associate it with. And then build up a strategy in terms of what kind of product targeting you might want to implement before and during Prime Day. So actually that's my summary and kind of a summary of the kind of bidding, targeting, budgeting tips before Prime Day. I hope everyone is successful with regards to their Prime Day. I'll invite actually Daniel from Scale Insights to give a much more kind of actionable, advanced kind of strategy from his experience as a top seller.